to have Carrie Portal um, talk with us for a little bit today. And she is part of Think First Missouri, and they are a prevention and education agency. And their main goal is to prevent traumatic injuries through education, research, and policy. So welcome, Carrie.
Hi, thank you. A little bit about my story. I want to start off with the video that you just saw was very dramatic. It was sobering, and that's the whole purpose of it, because that is what actually happens during a car crash, like you just saw. I had my two middle children with me when we were hit by a drunk driver. They were ages 10 and 12. It happened 10 years ago, and I tell everybody it happened just like it does in the movies, because in my mind, that's exactly the way that it played out. The three of us were laughing hysterically in our car 1 second, and then the very next second, I looked at the road ahead of me and I knew 100% what was going to happen to us. And there were 4 vehicles involved in our car crash, and we were actually the second one in line. We were not the first. And we were very lucky that we were the second, even though we had the most impact with that impaired driver. But because he slid down the side of the truck and trailer that was in front of us, it slowed him to somewhere in excess of 85 miles an hour when he hit us. And everything inside of me says that if we had been that very first vehicle, that we definitely would not be here today. Now, that impaired driver, his blood alcohol level was 0.265, which you guys know is extremely high. It's 3.5 times the legal limit. And out of all 4 of those vehicles, that impaired driver was the only one who was not wearing his seatbelt that evening. And that man lost his life exactly where his truck stopped after he hit all 4 of us, or all 3 of us, I should say. So I do not call my crash an accident, because it definitely could have been prevented. I call it a crash or a car wreck or something on those lines, but it's not an accident, and it's not a mistake when you choose to drive distracted or impaired, because everyone has a choice when they get behind that wheel. And you know, out of all 4 of those vehicles, our vehicle was hit the hardest, and so the 3 of us in our vehicle had the most injuries. Now, my 2 daughters were able to heal in about 6 weeks. My daughter in the front seat had a severe, deep laceration to her abdomen, and my daughter in the back seat had broken her arm. And if you would have seen our car, you would have thought there is absolutely no way that, 1, anyone out of there came out alive, but 2, that they just had the injuries that they had. Now, my injuries were much more severe because we had 2 points of impact. We hit head on my side, the driver's side of the car. And because we hit kind of awkwardly, it flipped him around to have a second impact in the side of my driver's door. So I had initial injuries coming from the head on impact, and then the side impact then caused even more injuries. This car crash took me 4 years to be able to recover to the point where I could finally walk unassisted, meaning I didn't need a cane or crutches. I did use a wheelchair on a part-time basis, but 4 years it took for my surgeons to say, okay, Carrie, you know, this is about all we can do for you at this time. Only come back whenever something else happens, goes wrong, or you feel like you're deteriorating. So at this point, I have had 13 surgeries. I am partially disabled. I'm a part-time wheelchair user. I can take around 1,700 steps a day, which I know the average that you're supposed to get is around 10,000. So if you look at that percentage, 1,700 steps a day is not very much to be able to use. So every morning that I wake up, I have to prioritize how I would like to use my steps for the day, because I only have so many, and I can't take all 1,700 steps in a row. They have to be periodic and kind of, you know, stacked throughout the day of how I want to use them. So if I needed to go to one of my children's school functions and say I wanted to be able to walk into the gym, or I wanted to be able to walk into the baseball or softball complex, I would try to save all of my steps throughout the day so that I could sit in the stands with the other parents. It didn't always work out, but it's something that I have to think about every day during my work routine, so that I don't cause myself even more pain than I already have. Probably the biggest consequence of this man's actions is that I live with daily pain. And at this point, there's really no way to fix it. My surgeons have done everything that they possibly can. I see a pain specialist on basically a maintenance level to try to keep my pain to a level that is manageable for me. You know, when you go into a doctor's office and they ask you, what is your pain level on a scale of 1 to 10? I have a completely different pain scale at this point because my body has gotten used to living with pain on a daily basis. So my normal pain is what most of you would consider to be like unlivable. But to me, that's just how things are anymore. So whenever my pain raises to a point where I can't tolerate it, that's whenever I have to go back to my pain specialist and say, okay, we've got to figure out what to do, because I'm at the point where I'm just existing and not living anymore. And it's not a great way to live. There's a lot of people in my situation that live the same way that I do. And some of them, it was their choice to drive distracted. Others are like myself, where we didn't have a choice in the matter. The only choice that we had was how we were going to react to the situation. We had to choose our attitude and how we were going to deal with a situation that has been laid in our lap. And it's a really big point that I like to make, that I am living with the consequence of someone else's choice. And I have to live with that consequence for the rest of my life. I don't have any choice in that. I try to live the best life that I possibly can. I do everything that my surgeons and my physical therapists tell me, but ultimately, that one Wednesday night, that one evening, when a gentleman decided to get behind the wheel severely intoxicated, has affected my life forever. And something that most people don't think about whenever they make that choice to drive distracted is how it's going to affect everyone else around them. I know that most of the time when we think about our choices, we only think about how they affect ourselves. And a lot of people are like, well, if it happens to me, well, that's fine. It's just to me. But most of the time, that is not how the situation plays out. Whether you think about your loved ones or not, and how they're going to react to how you feel and you hurt, my entire family has been affected by this tragedy. Two of them were involved immediately in the situation in the car with me. But then we had 3 other people at home that got the phone call, that went to the emergency room. We have 5 other people who have watched me 13 times come home from the hospital and heal from surgeries that take months and months just to be able to function from, because they were so in depth. So when you think about everyone around you, it does affect them. It has affected my entire community because we live in a very small rural community. Everyone on that emergency crew knew who my family and I were. So they have gotten to witness not only the scene of the car crash, but they have got to witness everything that we have went through after this choice has been made, and it has affected them as well. So when I tell you that the only statistic that I share with everybody is that there is a 100% chance that at some point in your life, you will be involved in some kind of car crash, car accident, whether it's just a fender bender or whether it's one like mine. And I am here to tell you that this is the one and only automobile crash that I have ever been involved in. I have never been in a fender bender. I've never bumped anybody. Nothing has happened to me before this one incident happened, and it was huge. I mean, it's life changing. So before you get behind that wheel, I want you to think about not only yourself, always put your seatbelt on, because car crashes don't most of the time keep you in the vehicle. We would have definitely been thrown out had we not all three had our seatbelts on. Put your phone down, because you're not only putting yourself in danger, you're putting that person who is passing you on the highway in danger. And that goes for anyone else who is in your vehicle. If you're driving, you say to your passenger, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to leave until you put your seatbelt on, because every choice that you make will have an after effect. And it may not be the first time, the third time, or the 10th time, but I promise you at some point that choice will have an impact on not only yourself, but everyone around you. So I want to thank ACT and SAD for inviting me here with you this evening for a few minutes to tell you just a tidbit about my story. And I hope that everything that you've seen here tonight has benefited you and hopefully change your perspective the next time you get behind that wheel.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for telling your story. It's very, very important for our students and our adults to understand the impact that they have once they get in a car, and the decisions that lead up to that. So thank you so much. And if you're interested in looking up Think First Missouri, they are part of the MU School of Medicine, so they're kind of hard to find their website. If you just Google Think First Missouri, they pop right up there, the first one. So give them a look. They come out to schools and speak all the time and come out to community groups. So it's a good resource to utilize. And now I'm going to have Chris Zurich, our SAD coordinator here in Missouri, talk a little bit about, we created this video, but we didn't want to just create this video. We wanted to create some supplemental educational materials to go along with it. So Chris is going to talk about those just a little bit.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Carrie, for sharing your story. I think one of the things that I myself even learned in there, you said you don't refer to it as an accident because it was preventable. And I think that's a really important thing for our students to remember and our communities to remember as well, and something that we really want to reinforce through the lesson plans that we've developed to go alongside of the docudrama that we just released today. So I'm going to share my screen here really quick. And want to show you all exactly what we have available through ACT Missouri and through Missouri SAD in regards to lesson plans for our docudrama. We developed two different lesson plans today. We have a car crash docudrama storyboard that we have developed that's going to encourage students to build out a storyboard all about car crashes, preventable activities. So what we're going to ask of our students through this lesson plan is to really learn about what is a PSA, what is a public service announcement, how does it affect the community, understand the marketing behind a public service announcement, and then to actually develop a public service announcement that encourages students to make safe decisions while driving, whether that be not texting, not driving under the influence, not playing with your phone, eating, anything like that that can be distraction or at risk that we can use to then prevent those car wrecks, which I'm going to struggle now to not say car accidents, but I think it really is a valid point and something that we all need to remember. We have included in here also a basic storyboarding template that you can use, so you can actually print this out and you can use it with your students. All of our lesson plan activities are designed for 9th through 12th grade because that really was our target audience, starting with those students who are just emerging behind the wheel all through their high school time. We also developed a second activity, which encourages our high school students, again, that 9th through 12th grade, to build some basic traffic safety skills for our younger students. So this is actually going to encourage high school students to build out a game that build some basic traffic skills for our younger students, helping them to learn that they really are role models for that younger generation and their actions really do matter. So this is also going to encourage students to actually get out and actually play this game, use this game with students. So we're really encouraging this to not just be a do the activity and be done with it, but to actually then take this back out into the field, go to your elementary schools and actually play these games. We've provided some basic little samples there of how you could convert a game of chutes and ladders for elementary students, again, to reinforce those basic traffic safety skills. Now, with both of these activities that we have developed, we are asking that if you choose to participate in these, and we highly encourage you to do so, that you please share with us the results. Share with us the PSAs that your students have developed, that storyboard. Share with us the games so that we can feature these and we can add these to our website so that this docudrama doesn't just end here tonight. We really want this to be something that you all are reinforcing in the classroom, in your community groups, in your local coalitions, your local SAD chapters, and then to take that message and actually still do something with it. So this is a three-pronged approach. You've seen the video is going to be available. Take these lesson plans, and then let's put them into action with our students so that we can prevent these incidents from occurring in the future. All of this is going to be available on our ACT Missouri website. So stay tuned. We'll also get the link to the lesson plans, I think, dropped into the chat here of this Facebook Live. So you can go back, even if you're not watching live, and you can still access those materials directly out of our chat. So I want to thank you all for letting Missouri SAD be a part of this docudrama, and hope that it prevents incidents in the future and saves lives along the way.
Thanks, Chris. The other place that the docudrama will be is on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and search for ACT Missouri, it will be posted there as well. We are going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening, but I do want to go ahead, and I know that we thanked them at the end of the video, but it took so many people to put this video together. So I do want to thank SAD, ACT Missouri. Thank you, Think First, for coming here tonight. The Coalition for Roadway Safety, the Southern Boone Fire Protection District, the Ashland Police Department, the University of Missouri Emergency Medical Services, Tow Pro Broadway Wrecker, the Centralia Multimedia class that came down and filmed it, and then the Southern Boone FFA kids who were our participants and were our actors for it. I'm just so grateful for your help, and this is such an amazing product that came from it, and I hope that you guys will take this and use it. Have the conversation with your kiddos, watch it with them, and then talk about this and check out those lessons plans as well. So thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Carrie, for joining me, and everyone have a good evening.